Hefe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well here. I love the energy at Denver. Like I was saying, it's my first time here, so really just absorbing everything, making connections.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I have been to a lot of parallel events. The best part about this is that we have a lot of DAO folks, right? I have been on stages where people don't really know what DAOs are.
Yeah.
So this is a very, very, very warm crowd for me. But back to you. How do you introduce yourself to like a 5-year-old?
Okay, yeah. So I would say I'm Hefe. I am deeply involved in the Aavegotchi community, and specifically with the DAO, which that's where we make big decisions to build our DAO Bill King. So like a 5-year-old, if I was to take the example, I mean, they play Minecraft, they've played many other of these MMO builder style games that are often created by a central entity, a developer studio, and they own everything in the game. They own your character, the resources, everything you built in the game is owned by them. What we're trying to do at Aavegotchi DAO is empower this group of people, the players, as also asset owners and users, and take their assets that they own and build really fun, really cool experiences with them.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a big fan of Aavegotchi. In fact, I saw your panel yesterday. It was a very lit panel.
Yeah.
Like the crowd was very receptive.
Yeah.
So big fan on that end. But okay. So what are the top priorities that Aavegotchi is really working towards? Like, what is that unique hypothesis which you have, which you think is true in the world? Why are you doing what you're doing today?
I think gaming is going to be, it already is a big industry, but it is almost siloed in a Web 2 world. We haven't seen too many games from the Web 2 world make their way over onto the other side there, where the Web 3 games are being built. And I think part of that is the chasm of complexity. There is quite a bit of complexity still for the average user, the average gamer to understand before they can get onto a Web 3 game. So I think that's part of the challenge, is knowing what a smart contract is, what Metamask is. Those seem to be the current barriers. But at Aavegotchi DAO, we're continuously working to lower those barriers and also increase exposure, like the brand itself, out in the wild, out with the average individual.
Oh, wow. So, okay. But I'm pretty sure, that is not a straightforward journey, because I have been on that path of educating people, and sometimes it gets very abstract, because let's say I actually convince somebody, I tell them what a MetaMask is. For them to really go and contribute, it's still a very, it's a very complex path.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that straightforward. So, how do you really measure the efforts that you're doing is whether it's adding up or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one of the biggest ways to measure is actually by voter engagement and voter participation. And so speaking to my experience from the DAO, I host the Sunday calls. Every Sunday, we have a DAO meeting where it's open doors. So anybody, whether you're a ghost token holder or not, can come to Aavegotchi DAO and be part of the conversation. And there's quite a bit of preparation that goes into it. I have a team behind me that helps we get everything together. But they do a good job of monitoring the forums, making sure that all the Discord chats aren't being lost, and grabbing the really strong opinions so we can discuss it on Sunday, and maybe even get those people on stage and firsthand, as a human being, explain why they want to, why they want this brand, or why they want to push this proposal to change something about that.
But how do you measure it? Like, is there a dashboard you look at, or is it still like a subjective manual judgment?
I think it's very much a subjective manual judgment at this point. Well, actually, I could speak to the on-chain engagement, because Aavegotchi DAO is actually the third largest DAO in the world by voter engagement.
Oh.
I think we're right behind Aave DAO in terms of engagement. And that's because all of our voting is with the Ghost token, which is an on-chain.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a ERC20 token. Also used to purchase things in the game. It has a lot of utility, but it has the governance utility, which is used to vote. So we can see on-chain how much voter participation we're getting.
How do you get, let's say an average Joe in the room wants to start a DAO, and they want to get to Aavegotchi's stage, right? Like, where you're the third most engaged community. What do you really do?
Yeah, I think it starts with finding the right group of people to come around the mission that you want the DAO to want. Yeah, I think that's the first one. I think the second one is having have something that has regular report, whether you're holding a weekly meeting, whether you're having a forum discussion, but have a place where people can come together, the town square.
Yeah.
You can't have a DAO without a town square.
Got it. Keeping things super transparent.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think the third most thing, and this is something we're working on now, is actually empowering people with DAO funds to execute on projects that they want about creating even more value for the protocol.
But, okay, so those are 3 pointers, but go back to the first point, right? Like, where you're getting people in, how do you really attract them in the first place? Like, how do you distribute? How do you get someone in the world to know about Aavegotchi in the first place?
Dale, I think Aavegotchi started by, attracting a specific group of people just with the assets themselves. Like it's a cute pixelated thing. It has a DeFi component to it, so we attracted a lot of DeFi people into it. And so the actual inherent utility of the NFT is what attracted the right community around the NFT. Whereas when you have a PFP project, if you have let's say a Panda PFP club, I'm sure not everybody in that club is passionate about pandas.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is cute. That I have knowledge about.
Yes.
Okay, my last question to you. What are the top 3 or 4 challenges that you really see today that Aavegotchi is trying to solve?
Yeah.
And how are you really solving for it? The reason I'm asking for is, of course, we as DaoLens would love to help you.
Yeah.
Whatsoever way, but otherwise as well, we are going to have a lot of listeners for this talk.
Yeah.
I want them to figure out, like, they should probably be able to reach out to you.
Yeah.
We'll talk about how they can do it.
Yeah.
But what are the top problems? Like, what's keeping you awake?
I got three, and I recently wrote a Twitter thread on it, actually.
I know.
So I'll definitely share that with you guys. But I think the top 3 today for not just Aavegotchi DAO, but for a lot of DAOs in this creative space, accountability, where you're funding projects, when you are entrusting individuals to do specific things to make sure those individuals are accountable. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Transparency is one you mentioned, which I think is really important. And transparency isn't a on-off thing, it's a gradient. So we're always trying to improve how transparent we are about funding a specific project, getting details on deliverables, when we're actually funding something, and just having better two-way communication. I think that's where the Sunday DAO calls really actually help.
Okay, so you're saying accountability, transparency, and another way communication. I'm going to take a minute more here.
Okay, yeah.
When you say accountability, right, like what we have seen being accountable is we are working on this grant management tool. It's just one offbeat example, but like you give away some funds and let's say I give somebody 10 ETH and they don't use all 10 ETH. What we are doing is like, hey, if you do not give us milestone updates, we're going to take back the 8 ETH.
Okay.
Because only 2 of them were like actually given to you.
Yeah.
The 8 of them were just sitting in that trust.
Spoken for.
Yeah, they're spoken for, but they're going to come back into the main treasury if you do not really prove that you have been doing work. It works, but it's also seen as like being punishable by certain folks.
Yeah.
And when you say transparency, I would also want to understand what do you really mean by being transparent? Because of course, like by the nature of it being a DAO, a lot of stuff is already transparent.
Yeah.
How do you really increase that transparency? Could you dive a little deeper on both the points?
Yeah, I think the big transparency comes from the proposal process itself. And so, of course, DAOs are a group of people from all different backgrounds. We got lawyers, doctors, all the way down to artists and musicians. Even like, there's a guy who runs a sailboat charter company.
Yeah.
All different backgrounds. Not everybody has the talent to put together a well-structured proposal that makes sense to everybody. So it's kind of my job there to look over a lot of these proposals and make sure that they're up to standard so that all the important points in their proposal have been included. I want to do really moderation.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, awesome. So how can somebody reach out to you?
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is actually Aavegotchi with an S on the end, so Aavegotchis. And so I'm Hefe on Twitter. That's the easiest way to get at me. And we also have another decentralized media company with its roots in the Gotchiverse called GMI Friends. And our mission at GMI Friends is actually to lower the barrier of entry and increase exposure to Aavegotchi. So we're a decentralized media company with our roots in the Gotchiverse.
Yeah.
And so people who want to follow us, who want to get involved, if you're a creator of any sort, reach out to us. That's GMI Friends on Twitter.
Awesome. And you know how to reach out to me. I'm Vix_Rum, VIKS_RUM, and at the rate DaoLens as well, which is where we talk about everything we do at DaoLens. We have some very cool announcements happening at ETH Denver as well, alongside side events. And you can go to our website, DaoLens.com, to learn more. It was a pleasure chatting with you, babe.
Absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed the chat. I would at some point in time want to talk about how we can get DaoLens also involved.
Absolutely. I'm very interested in your product as a DAO manager, as somebody who's regularly involved in, aggregating discussion. I love what you guys are doing. And I think it's really going to increase the quality of this rapport that we're trying to build right now.
And on that note, I think this is off the record, but what we are really trying to do is identify the 5 or 6 communities that have it in them